he was quite the fashion guy. You know, if you flip through some of our high school yearbooks, you'll find that he was a pretty natty dresser. In fact, one of the more popular fashion choices he had was his canary yellow leisure suit that I think he took either his junior or senior picture in. So he gets a lot of grief about that, and we tend to bring that up whenever we get together. You know, Danny was like a lot of us, you know, from a small town. He was involved with a lot of things in grade school and middle school and in high school as well, and excelled in whatever he did. He was a natural leader within our class, which had a lot of very successful people come through. One of the most important things that he did was to become a foreign exchange student and go to Costa Rica, and that's where he first fell in love with the coffee industry and the growers and so forth.
We both got into the Hellsberg mentoring program about the same time, and Danny's mentor is Henry Block, and mine was Barnett Hellsberg. So from the beginning, so it was kind of a fun start. And Barnett says we were led into hemp before there were any qualifications. So that's what he tells us all the time.
He joined at a very, very early stage in our program, and it's been an incredible voyage for both of us. His mentor was Henry Block, who was one of our very first mentors, and I think they did very well together, and so we've kind of been part of his developing the business and watching what's happened. I also happen to think he's the world's best father, and I could have learned a lot from him.
Probably the thing I admire most about him, he's the greatest father I've ever met in my life. He was a fast-moving, hard-working guy, and he had these children at a later time in his life, in his mid-40s. But Danny puts a lot of time and energy into his children.
I think he's a real example of a great parent, and Carla likewise. They're great parents. What I appreciate is that Danny puts his kids and his family first, in spite of building an incredible business or along with that. So his priorities are in the right places.
Danny has the ability really to see kind of what people don't see and see out there, and make those things come to fruition.
He knew he wanted to roast coffee in a very high quality way. He knew he wanted to create different blends for different companies, and I remember early on some pretty smart people trying to talk him out of doing that. And Danny, listened to what people had to say, but at the end of the day, he did what he knew was right in his heart for his company, and so that's something I admire a lot about him.
He's a sterling example of a great Kansas City entrepreneur and what can be done when you refuse to give up.
Danny's done a great deal for the community. We teamed together from a very early time, doing things like Taste of the Nation, which was the precursor to Forks and Corks. That's just one item that we did, one event that we did. We've done charitable events all over, and Danny is always an integral part of it, and he's always willing to say yes when he's asked. So that makes Danny very important to the community, and a real icon for everybody else.
I think Danny's a good example of doing good and doing well, and putting them together and showing a lot of people what that can do for the community and the business. So I think he's just a great role model for many of us.
Well, the MS cause is very important to me because I have MS. I was diagnosed approximately 12 years ago, and they said I had a very unusual case. I had an unusual case because I also had Parkinson's. But the MS is very important to me. I'd like to find a cure. I need to find a cure if I want any relief at all, because I have primary progressive MS, which is there's no chemical that will react to it, and consequently it's extremely important. I think that it's a debilitating disease for many people. I'm very fortunate that I am still able to function, and I thank God every day that I'm able to move on the way I'm able to move.
Although I don't have anybody in my immediate family that has MS, I mean, most of us have friends or people that are inside of our bigger family that have MS, and so, you know, it's like anything. You know, we're all grateful that for the MS Society, and knowing that there's somebody out there championing the cause to hopefully, you know, sometime beat this terrible disease. And so, you know, I think as just a person living on this earth, I feel great about that, right? As far as Danny receiving the award, you know, I think Danny is somebody that he cares about every great cause. He cares about, you know, everything. And the Roastery has always been a supporter of many different causes in Kansas City from the beginning. And Danny's just always been wired that way. And so I can't think of anybody that would be better to receive the award than Danny.